All right, today we are jumping into the mind of a real giant in management thinking, Philip Crosby. We're going to unpack one of the most powerful and honestly, kind of strange-sounding ideas in the history of business.
So, let's get right to it. Picture this. You run a company that provides a service. Now, what if I told you that you could be spending up to 35% of your entire operating budget just fixing your own mistakes? That's not money for new ideas or growing the business. That's cash you're burning just to do things over. It's a huge number, right? Now that sounds totally nuts, doesn't it? How could preventing all that waste cost absolutely nothing? Well, that's the big paradox we're digging into today, and it's a question that flips a basic business assumption on its head, the idea that better quality has to mean bigger costs. And the guy behind this wild idea was Philip B. Crosby. Now, Crosby wasn't some professor dreaming this up in a university. He was the vice president for quality at a massive company called ITT. He was on the ground, in the factories and in the boardrooms, and he saw all this waste happening in real time. He just knew there had to be a better, and a cheaper way to do things.
And there it is, the phrase that just completely rattled the management world. In his book from 1979, Crosby didn't just say quality was free, he basically said it's a gold mine. The money you don't spend fixing mistakes drops right to your bottom line. It's not a cost, it's one of the most profitable things a company can do.
So here's the logic, and it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Crosby was saying that all the costs of bad quality, throwing out bad parts, redoing work, handling customer complaints, all of that costs way, way more than what you'd spend to prevent the problems from ever happening. You invest a little bit upfront in prevention, and you save a fortune on failure down the road.
Okay, so this sounds great, but how do you actually do it? Well, Crosby wasn't just about catchy slogans. He gave everyone a blueprint. He called it the 4 absolutes of quality management, and it's a framework designed to completely rewire how a whole company thinks about quality. These 4 things right here, they're the pillars of his entire philosophy. They're meant to be super clear, no wiggle room, and they can work anywhere. So let's take them one by one and see how they fit together. First up, what even is quality? Crosby said that fuzzy words like goodness or excellence are totally useless because nobody knows what they mean. For him, quality has one and only one definition: conformance to requirements. Plain and simple. Did you do what you said you were going to do? If the requirements are clear and you meet them, boom, you've achieved quality. It makes quality something you can measure, not just a feeling. Absolute number 2, the system. Most companies work on a system of appraisal. They make the thing, then they inspect it to find the problems. Crosby said that's totally backwards. You're basically planning to fail. He said the right system is prevention. You have to design your processes so that mistakes can't happen in the first place. Okay, number 3 is the performance standard. And this is the big one. What's an acceptable failure rate? Crosby's answer? None. 0 defects. Not pretty good or, that's close enough. The only goal that matters is meeting the requirement every single time. We're going to come back to this one for sure. And finally, number 4, the measurement. So how do you track quality? Not with some complicated chart. You track it with the one thing every executive understands: money. Crosby created this idea called the price of nonconformance, and this is about adding up the cold, hard cash you're wasting every time something goes wrong. All the wasted material, the extra hours people spend on rework, all of it. When you put a dollar sign on it, suddenly everyone pays attention. All right, let's circle back to 0 defects, because this is probably Crosby's most famous idea, and it's definitely the one people get wrong the most. When you first hear it, it sounds like he's demanding everyone be perfect, right? Like some kind of impossible standard. But that's not what he meant at all. See, this quote really gets to the heart of it. Crosby wasn't yelling at workers for being human. He was focused on the process. The whole point of 0 defects is to make the system so good that it's nearly impossible for it to create a bad result. It's all about building processes that are mistake-proof. So really, 0 defects is a promise from management. It's a way of saying, we refuse to plan for failure. I mean, think about it. You don't want your bank to be 99% accurate with your money, right? You don't want a surgeon to be close enough. So why would we accept a lower standard in our own work? It's about aiming for perfection in the process. And listen, this was not just some motivational poster they stuck on the wall. Crosby rolled this out with a super detailed 14-step program. He made companies set up special committees for it. They'd even have a big 0 defects day to kick the whole thing off and get every single person in the company on board with this new way of thinking. Now, it's really important to remember that Crosby wasn't operating in a vacuum. To really get what he was doing, you got to see how his ideas stack up against the other giants of quality at the time, guys like W. Edwards Deming and Joseph M. Juran.
And this table just lays it out so clearly. Look at that performance standard column. That's where you see the real difference. Crosby is preaching this absolute hard line of 0 defects. Deming, on the other hand, was all about continuous improvement, always getting a little better. And Jurin was focused on fitness for use. Basically, does the product do what the customer actually needs it to do? They all had powerful ideas, but man, Crosby's was easily the most intense.
So what's the takeaway here? What's Philip Crosby's lasting impact on the world? Well, decades after his book came out, his ideas are still a huge part of how we talk about, measure, and manage quality in business.
Just look at these phrases. I bet you've heard almost all of them. Doing it right the first time is something people say all the time, not just in business. That's his real legacy. He literally gave us a new language for talking about what it means to be good at what you do.
This quote really sums it all up, I think. It's about absolute clarity and taking ownership. You have two choices. Either you meet the requirement exactly 100%, or it's your job to go back and get the requirement officially changed. There's no gray area, no good enough.
And that really leads us to the big question for today. In the world we live in now, which is all about speed and constant change, is chasing after 0 defects a timeless goal that pushes us to be great? Or is it maybe an impossible dream that just slows us down? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.